Hi everyone, welcome to the Word at One for Tuesday, November 16th. This is Tuesdays in Prophecy, and we're following up on some of the verses that we talked about yesterday in the genealogy of Christ in the first chapter of Matthew. So one name in particular that we want to draw out today is the name Rahab. So this is a woman who lived in the city of Jericho, so she was not a part of the Israelite people. And she lived in that city while the Israelites were still wandering in the wilderness, but the stories about how God had saved those people, so the Lord, the God of Israel, had saved his people, those stories were starting to filter into the land of Canaan. And so when she meets these two spies from the Israelites that were sent in by Joshua to kind of check things out in the city of Jericho, she does not give the spies up to the local authorities. She protects them. She shelters them. And it's because she has learned who the God of Israel is. And she has internalized that reality to say, I want to be on his side. So today is a day of talking about prophecy, but prophecy does come in all different forms. It is a prediction of the future. It's a message to the people of God that's given to specific men and women. But also prophecy is something that happens like when Jacob prophesied over his sons. He had this word given to each one of them from him over his sons. And we talked about Judah, this name that was in those first 3 verses of Matthew. Judah was predicted to be a tribe of kings, which it did. So the kings of Jerusalem come from Judah, and then eventually, of course, the King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And Rahab, in the story today from Joshua chapter 2, she is not a prophet. She's not even a part of the people of Israel, but she gives a prophetic word in terms of what God was going to do, and her response is that she wanted to be on the side of the God of Israel. So this is Joshua chapter 2, beginning in verse 8. Before the spies lay down for the night, this is when she's sheltering them, she went up on the roof and said to them, I know that the Lord has given this land to you, and that a great fear of you has fallen on us, and all who live in this country are melting in fear because of you. We have heard how the Lord dried up the water of the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to Sihon and Og, the 2 kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, whom you completely destroyed. When we heard of it, our hearts melted, and everyone's courage failed because of you. For the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on the earth below. Well, that verse right there is a prophetic word proclaiming who God is and the works that he has done. So she's a prophetess. Even if she's not from Israel, even if God hasn't even specifically talked to her, she is a prophetess proclaiming who God is and what God has done and what he is going to do. And she's honored for that. She's honored not just for protecting the spies, but she's honored for recognizing him. And so when those walls of Jericho fall, because everybody else is terrified, but nobody else turned. Nobody else chose to say, hey, we need to maybe be obedient to this God of Israel. He seems pretty powerful. Let's turn and worship him. No, she's the only one. And so from her family line, somebody outside of the people of Israel, like Ruth was mentioned in these last verses, completely outside of the people of Israel, is given a prophetic look into who God is and what he is going to do. And she is named in the genealogy of Christ. And to where years later, these prophetic words that she speaks about God's work in heaven and on earth takes place in Jesus. So it takes place in the circumstances that she found herself in and in the years to come. So prophecy happens all over Scripture, and it happens all over as we recognize who God is, what he has done, and how we can be a part of it. See you all tomorrow.